There are a lot of things in games that are rare. In MMOs, however, it can be rare at one point and be abundant in the next. Rarity in MMOs can change. You might have one item you've kept for a long time, and then all of a sudden, everybody has them. Today, I just want to talk about a few things that used to be rare, but not anymore in Wizard101. I remember back then everybody wanted one of these since they were new at the time. When you got one, it made you feel like a kid that wasn't just in a candy store, but robbing it at the same time. It made you feel empowered knowing that you can practically use two schools effectively. You only had two options of getting them, which were buy it for 20 bucks or take your slim to none chances of getting one from a boss. It was some very expensive fucking candy with some wisps surrounding you. In my time of playing, I've only ever gotten 3 of these amulets from non-stop grinding. I mean, back then, of course. Nowadays, most veteran players have an easy time of getting them because there's just so many varieties and levels to them. Even some bosses were nerfed to a point where they drop a ton of them in one single battle. The one thing I will say though about these mastery amulets though is it may not be rare in the case of the drop rates, but rare in the sense that people don't wear them. So technically it kinda balances out. So back in the day, we used to have these Beckett magazines, and I've talked about them before. It's like buying a McDonald's Happy Meal and getting a little dinky toy with it. Neither of which I could have afforded, but regardless, people bought it because of the toy. But in this case, the toy was a virtual item. I don't know one person who actually read the magazines, but everybody wanted them because of the wands it would give people in-game. We had some nice looking wands, like the Blue Raptor, the Shaft, the shittier Blue Raptor without glow-in-the-dark action, the stick, and then we have these two staves. After 2011 or so, these were no longer available from the magazines because they were out of print. Luckily, players these days can fish to get these special ones. So basically, everyone can get them with a little bit of work and a bit of effort. When pet talents were a thing, there were no ways to reliably get a huge stat increasing snack. It wasn't until a few years later when plants were introduced where people were able to get these snacks. However, to get the plants, you had to buy them since at the time those special snack-giving plants were not available as a drop from anywhere. Training pets without these snacks were a nightmare since it would take an extremely long amount of time without them. Except one place, but you had to fight a boss for them. Other than that, those snacks were relatively scarce. As the list of worlds kept expanding though, it seemed inevitable that these plants would be in the loot drop tables. Since then, it's become a staple for people who want to level up pets to have these plants. Originally, some pets were quite hard to obtain since you had to go through a long dungeon and have a chance of getting them from the last boss. For example, this lady with wings, or this mechanical spider. A lot of these pets can now be found throughout many alternative sources. Now you might ask, but Hunter, couldn't you just hatch it with somebody for these pets? Keep in mind back then there was no steady means of finding someone to create a new pet with you. We basically had to go out there and ask if anybody had these pets. It was like the equivalent of being a kid and going to your friend's house without texting them because there was no way to get the message across. However, due to the new methods of communication like the kiosk and among other things pet lending, it became easier to obtain these pets. There are still a few pets though that people can't obtain because they're locked behind a metaphorical developer wall. Anyway, was there anything you consider rare but not anymore? Comment down below. I like to hear about it. It doesn't have to be Wizard101. It can be any game. Also, if you're new, subscribing is just a click away. But with that, take care and see you guys.